Hello and welcome to Mid-Atlantic Weather. This is Tuesday, December 13th, 2016, and there's a lot going on, and I want to just discuss probabilities, possibilities, and things of that. So get ready. I'm going to start out with the National Weather Service's Weather Prediction Center talking about what is expected today. What you can see here is some moisture up here in the northeast causing some snow. There's a chance that we could see some rain showers, maybe snow showers here in Northern Virginia today. Up into Pennsylvania, you see some of the snow there. It's good to note. But anyway, going forward, if I can, we have a very interesting setup the next couple days. What we have is this first set of moisture is going off the East Coast. Is this cold front coming through, which you saw it kind of approaching here, and it's moving on through, and the cold air is going to follow. Part of the polar vortex is breaking off, or part of it is coming down here and swinging into the United States, and it's going to visit us. Here we go. By day 3, very, very cold air. That cold air is going over some very warm lakes, so they're seeing some snow up here in New England as the front comes through, and then the lake effect snow kicks in. What you're seeing here in all this mess is kind of what's going to come up for this weekend. I'll explain what's probable and possible related to it. So just give me a moment here to set up the map. So what you're seeing here, day 3, is that, well, kind of off the map here, but the polar vortex piece is up here, and it's brought this high pressure system that is very, very cold air because of its Arctic region origin is settled in here in the United States into the eastern part of the U.S. Now on Thursday we're going to see a lot of this cold air ushered in by just very, very heavy winds. There's part of the highlands and areas in northern Maryland and up north that could see 40-45 mile per hour winds. We'll have to see how that pans out. What you see is this front here, this low pressure center out here in the west, that's going to eject and start coming east. So what you see is a very convoluted forecast. What's happening is there's all this stale air east of the mountains, and so it's causing this warm front to slowly move north. The problem is that it's running into very dense cold air that's been trapped here east of the mountains. It's called cold air damming. Now, it doesn't have a good origin source of cold air damming. Normally you'd see a high pressure system up here, not a high moving out, which this high is on its way to the right and on out of here. But the residual cold air is going to provide the possibility of icing, starting off all the way down into South Carolina, into the North Carolina, Piedmont area and mountains, all the way up into Virginia. And this will be mainly overnight Friday into early Saturday. Now, what's happening is because this is moving out, it's turning winds to the south very quickly. So it's scouring out the colder air as fast as it possibly can. First of all, the warm air is going to override the cold air, so you're going to see precipitation start to break out, then it's going to turn over to sleet and freezing rain actually fairly quickly, I believe, at this point. So maybe 1 to 2 inches, a little more as you go further north, a lot less as you go down south. South of the Northern Virginia area, you're just not going to see much. It may be snow and then quickly sleet and some freezing rain. Everybody will probably see a very brief period of sleet and freezing rain. As you get further west of 95, as you get this cold air banked up here against the mountains, it will last longer. Sleet quickly going over to freezing rain and eventually to rain. And what's crazy is this low is very strong, and it's going to be moving up this way, and it's going to be dragging a lot of warmth with it. Whoop! I didn't mean to click on the model there to kind of do some craziness. But there you go. You're seeing this really strong low pressure system going up into Canada. The winds have now totally scoured out the cold air and pushed it, I mean, way out of the pictures, way off the east. And you actually have screaming southerly winds here, pretty strong southerly winds. Overnight on Saturday, temperatures could rise. We could be near 60 or in the 60s in a lot of areas by Sunday morning. So we go from ridiculously cold, we're talking teens for lows on Friday, to ridiculously warm Sunday morning. But what's crazy, this front is no small front. I mean, it's going to come through with a lot of power because behind it here you have another cold high pressure building in and pressing in from the west. It's possible that this leaves enough moisture behind that as it's moving through that the rain quickly turns over to a period of snow. But I mean, the snow should be brief, and then that moves on. What happens next week is a little bit of interesting. You do see a little ripple here in the isobars. Have to see if maybe something follows up this system and brings some storminess, iciness to the East Coast. So this is the American model, the GFS model showing today, and I'm going to move us forward. We'll go in 24-hour increments here. And this is that low that's kind of moving out today that could potentially bring a little bit of snow showers. What you can see now is the cold air pressing in from this high pressure from the west. And then we're going to move again 48 hours, and now we should see things changing a little bit. So we see the cold is in place. This is Friday. It's very cold. I mean, this is a very cold isobar for the 500 levels. And now we're going to start. Let's sync up to about 60 hours. Cold air is here. It's in place. Strong lake effect you see up to the north. And then by about 72 hours out, we're still dealing with Friday. So that's some coldness there. I'm sorry. I need to really move us forward. Here you see how the cold is really settled in. Friday morning should be extremely cold, coldest day of the season, coldest we've been in a long time. So what's going to happen is overnight on Friday is we're going to see a little bit of us overrunning snow here break out. Now where it breaks out is a good question. Originally or previously the snow had been breaking out in Virginia and moving north. Now it's showing this little swath of snow further to the north. The further north this goes, the less likely that we get any snow accumulation. What you're going to see is the winds are going to start turning from the south more strongly, and we're going to go quickly over to sleet and to freezing rain. So that's kind of the concern there. 96, we should see now the ice. Ice has gone into Virginia. This is the residual cold air left behind, and really 95 and west is probably where we're going to deal with the most. Valley locations, of course. There's a good little slug of moisture that happens over a 3 to 5 hour period on this model. Maryland looks like it gets into some snow, maybe 2-3 inches of snow before it gets over to ice. But it also will turn over and it will melt all this stuff out fairly quickly. This is a very strong low. Lows counterclockwise bring up strong southerly winds. You have a strong high to the east. I mean, there's just so much screaming southerly winds here that you're going to warm up all the way up the East Coast. So watch what happens. Quickly we see the rain, the snow, and freezing rain moving over to a sleety mixture, and then over to rain and some heavy rain. Then we get into a drier, we'll call it dry slot on the system, and then we got the front advancing. Now what you're seeing is there's a lot of residual moisture behind this front. That's what's a little bit interesting in the longer term, because this storm comes through. One, it's going to be strong. I mean, we should see really heavy rains and some very strong winds out of it. Oops, I'm sorry, I stepped back. But you see behind it a potential for it turning back over to a very brief period of some frozen, maybe some snow, rain and snow mixed. You can see it here coming through, and then it's out of here. The question that we had yesterday and that was interesting is whether or not a wave of low pressures could form along this front. Previously, during this time of year, that's a good indicator or a way to get ice. So you can see some of this icing showing up here on some of the models. And so that's a good question. Are you going to get this wave coming out here, and could it actually cause another wintry mess for some people? It's possible. So you see this follow-up coming up next week, and then boom, here we are in ice again, and this is valid for Tuesday. Again, overrunning. We're not seeing strong support for high coming down in the north, but I do see some strong confluence or potential for some air sinking south that's cold. So we're seeing some interesting situations. So here at 180, still some leftover, frozen. So the question is whether or not something bigger comes out of this system next week. It's good to know. So that's kind of the overall arching pattern here. What we don't see is good setup for snow. This is a mixing type of a scenario and a setup. And honestly, even though it's cold next week, we have all this moisture here in the southeast. How far this cold air can press in will depend on what kind of precip type we get, or if we get precip even up into this area. Something to watch, and I've extended myself way too long on this discussion. So anyway, hope you've enjoyed it. Saturday looks dicey for the first half of the day for a lot of Virginia Piedmont, and it will quickly go over to rain. A lot of wind will be associated with the cold that's coming in both Thursday, Friday. Highs will be in the 20s, lower 30s at best those 2 days, but quickly things change, as you saw with Saturday with that strong low pressure system and just crazy weather, because we could see 60s overnight Saturday into Sunday morning, and then quickly turning back over to cold and quickly dropping temperatures, bringing back snow or sleet or at the end of the front, and then we had to watch something next week. All for now.